What famous person has done something incredibly heinous, but has often been overlooked? Most Americans probably won't know the name Jimmy Savile, but what he got away with for decades is absolutely awful. Countless sexual assaults against people, mostly children, all the way up to the elderly. Worse than that, his behavior was covered up by elements within the BBC as he was employed by them. He's dead now, but he got away with it his whole life, likely hundreds of victims. Edit. Thanks for Snick Mystery Person. For those that haven't heard of him, what makes his crimes so heinous was that Savile's whole thing was helping kids. His TV show, Jim Will Fix It, was based around making kids' dreams come true. He was absolutely adored by British and Irish kids in the 80s. This, coupled with raising money for children's charities, gave him massive access to children in hospitals and care homes. I'm not religious, but I chose to believe that this particular fucker is burning in hell. Notre Dame football coach Brian Kelly. Kelly insisted on having student videographers record practices. Back in October of 2010, the region was experiencing a very bad windstorm, 50+ mph gusts, and Kelly hated to move practice inside, so once rain/lightning was over, he moved it back outside, despite the high winds. The videographers had to climb into scissor lifts and ascend up to 40 feet high in this weather. As you can guess, the wind eventually blew over one of the lifts, sending it crashing down to a nearby street and killing the videographer, 20-year-old Declan Sullivan. Just before the accident, Sullivan tweeted out some heartbreaking messages expressing his fear over the situation. The team's practice continued for 25 minutes after the scissor lift fell over. Despite the university being determined to be at fault for Sullivan's death, Kelly was never really held to account for his reckless decision to hold practice outside in horrendous weather and to continue to have the videographers up on unstable lifts. It should have ended his coaching tenure at the school that year, but collegiate sports money and power doesn't abide by such silly notions of responsibility. Most people remember Rick James for his catchy funky music, his erratic drug issues, or the hilarious Chappelle's Show Charlie Murphy True Hollywood Stories skit. What people don't bring up as commonly. In 1991, James and his girlfriend Tanya Hijazi were accused of holding 24-year-old Frances Alley hostage for up to 6 days, tying her up, forcing her to perform sexual acts, and burning her legs and abdomen with the hot end of a crack cocaine pipe during a week-long cocaine binge. He faced life in prison for kidnapping, assault, and torture, but only received a 5-year sentence and ultimately served 2 years total. I feel like that was a pretty heinous series of acts that have been often overlooked over the past 30 years. Alison Mack, of Smallville fame, was a member of the Ngzivm cult and was personally responsible for human trafficking, sexual assault, branding, and literally making other women sexual slaves of the guru. She's currently under house arrest awaiting sentencing. Klaus Kinski was a violent lunatic who also raped his own daughter. The number of professional athletes who have raped/abused people and animals/committed heinous crimes with impunity is too long to list. Alice Walton, heiress of the Walmart fortune, isn't a good driver. Walton has been involved in multiple automobile accidents, one of them fatal. She lost control of a rented Jeep during a 1983 Thanksgiving family reunion near Acapulco and plunged into a ravine, shattering her leg. She was airlifted out of Mexico and underwent more than 24 surgeries. She suffers lingering pain from her injuries. In April 1989, she struck and killed 50-year-old Oleta Hardin, who had stepped onto a road in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Witnesses stated that Walton was speeding at the time, but no charges were filed. In 1998, she hit a gas meter while driving under the influence of alcohol. She paid a $925 fine. During the filming of the Twilight Zone movie, John Landis demanded a scene be shot in the middle of the night and beyond the amount of time that child actors are allowed to work. Paid off their parents in cash from his own pocket. During the scene there were big pyro effects and a helicopter pilot hovering dangerously low. The pilot was trying to keep safe, but Landis kept telling him to get lower. Pyro blast damaged the tail rotor of the helicopter, which lost control and crashed, decapitating an actor and one of the children. The second child was crushed to death. Edit: my mistake, the passengers in the helicopter were not killed. Boy George, man handcuffed an escort to a wall and beat them with a metal chain. This is what I was going to come in and add. It goes beyond that, too. He had the guy chained to the wall and was about to sexually torture him with objects, but the guy managed to break free and escape. This wasn't rough play, it was attempted straight up Gacy shit. He was just incompetent at it and got a slap on the wrist. At least he was actually penalized for it. One of the more bizarre aspects of the Gacy case, like any of it wasn't bizarre, but you know what I mean, was that he flat out kidnapped two guys whom he raped and tortured and then released for whatever reason. One guy was bi, I'm not sure about the other one, but the point is that they were kidnapped, raped, and tortured so badly they were hospitalized and they identified Gacy. Cops' reaction? Interview him and accept his explanation that it was consensual slave sex. Case dropped, lol gays. Meanwhile, nobody's even bothered to check his past convictions or figured out that this is the same guy who's had several teen employees up and vanish.